All right, let's talk about the reality of college basketball. My name is Mike Carlson. I played 10 years professionally. I now mentor younger players, specifically through game film, and I talk with a lot of basketball players. And the general consensus is I worked really hard this summer and I'm going to crush it and I'm going to kill it. And a lot of them are going on to play college basketball. So let's take a minute and look at the reality of minute distribution because stats don't lie. Everyone's goal is obviously you want to play, you want to win, and you want to score. Not necessarily in that order. Some players have their priorities a little bit messed up, but the priority number one should be to play. That should affect every decision that you make as far as your recruiting goes because it is not fun to go someplace and sit on the bench. Winning is a plus. That should be on the focal point of everybody. I said should be because it's often not. Oftentimes, players are only focused on themselves and scoring. That is just a reality. And I will admit, it is fun to score the basketball, but let's talk about what you have to do in order to score. You want to score 20, for example. Here's the reality of basketball minutes. And this is based on data, okay? On average, on the college roster, there's 15 players in a team. The top four are going to get close to 60% of the minutes, and the top six are going to get close to 80%. Here's a chart with a bunch of numbers. I'm going to break it down real quick. You can tell we have D1 schools at the top. The top four, Houston and Auburn, are obviously two teams that made the Final Four last year. They're right on pace. Minnesota, an average team, a 500 team. They were 60-80 on their distributions on the top four and top six. Drake had a little bit higher, a little shorter of a rotation. So they were at 64% for the top four and 83%. Now, Nova is the Division two champs. They were right on pace as well. They had a pretty tight rotation throughout the year. And Trinity, the Division three champs, they had a little bit looser of a rotation, probably because they had a lot of blowout games. Same with Trinity Valley Community College, D1 JUCO national champs. You can tell they had, and I looked into them, they had a little bit more of a roster. They had a deep roster. They were playing a lot of guys. They had a very, very good team, and that's why they were the national champs. So on average, you can tell at the bottom here, it's 57.8 for the top four and 77.4% for the top six. And that's percentage of minutes distributed. Another thing to notice is if you have Trinity in your name, you are very likely to have a very good basketball team and win a national championship. To put this in a little bit more practical terms, there are 200 minutes per game, which means the top four are going to get about 114 of those minutes, which averages out to about 28 and a half. Top six are going to get 155 minutes, which averages out to about 25. And that leaves 45 minutes for the other nine guys on the roster. We know most rotations are about seven guys, but minutes are not distributed equally. So those top four, within those top four, you probably got two guys who are playing above 30, maybe close to 35 minutes a game. And then the minutes will be less and less as you go down the depth chart. And this is the top six. Most rotations are seven or eight. So you can even, that percentage will be higher, and the minutes for everybody else will even be less and less. If you want to take this one step further, the top three players are going to take about 50% of all the team's shots. So if you really want to be a scorer, you need to be one of those top three. Being in the top six, yeah, you'll get to play, but being in the top three, that's when you really get your shots up and that's when you really get to score. Here's a fancy pie chart to prove this point even further. So on the left here, we have the minutes distribution. We have the top four at about 57.1. Players five and six take up another 20%. And then right here, I added the seventh player because we know most rotations are about seven deep. So that leaves only 12% for the rest of the team. Now, this is the shot distribution just on average. This is 44%. Okay, if you add the third player, he's going to take up another 10% of the shots, which leaves 46% for the other 12 players on the team. We know basketball is not an equal opportunity sport, but I think it's very important for players to understand the reality of minutes and how they are distributed. And the other thing, if you really want to take this a step further, because there is a whole human factor behind this, you have to gain the trust of the coach that you are currently playing for. And the reason why I phrase it like that is because there's so much change in college basketball. Everybody wants to look at the players and the transfer portal, but coaches are changing positions at an alarming rate as well, at a very, very fast rate. Because you can't blame anybody. If they can make two, three, four, five times the money for doing the exact same job, they have to take that opportunity. That's a reality. Now, I know a bunch of players put in work over the summer and they think they're going to go in and kill it. Reality is going to prove to be different. Why? Because the numbers say it is. And coaches, at the end of the day, they will tell you what you need to hear. So you sign on the dotted line and you go to that school. Once you are there, in the interest of self preservation for those coaches, they are going to play the players that help them win basketball games, period. If you just look at it from a pure business perspective, coaches want to win. That gives them job security, that gives them the opportunity to move up and make more money. So they are going to play players that help them win. Make sure you're one of those guys, whatever that means. I help with that. I help players review game film, and I will teach you some concepts that will immediately impact your game and make you stand out and gain the trust of your coach, because getting consistent feedback is key, and game film is so beneficial when you know how to use it right, and that is exactly what I'll teach you. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe, like, all that good stuff. We'll see you in the next one.